Welcome to Zoo Nation, where we talk about history as it unfolds and look at the political zoo of a nation that we are in. My name is Josh. Unfortunately, Nathan couldn't be with us today. He misses you, wants to be with you, and will be in the near future. So let me silence my phone. Wanted to reach to you today. There's been a lot going on in 2024. Going to talk to you as well about some things going on the Russia front. Have some things to go into there. And there's a lot that I want to cover with Nathan. Wish he was here, wish he could be here, but he's not able to, as I've said. And we got a lot. We want to remind you that if you ever look on our channel, whether this be on YouTube in particular, or maybe Spotify, and you see, it just looks like an episode is missing. It goes from episode 12 to episode 14. You're like, well, where's episode 13? Well, it's probably been removed or banned by YouTube because, of course, it has been. But you can find us on Odyssey. Odyssey believes in free speech, and you can find us on Rumble as well. Rumble is a little bit more difficult for us to operate. We've had some technical issues with Rumble not wanting to work properly, but Odyssey is consistently performing for us. And so we also release our episodes early on Odyssey as a thank you for watching us on Odyssey. So please go there. And we also release early on Rumble, but Odyssey we release a little bit earlier because of it being so much easier to use and operate. And then, as you know, it usually comes out 9 p.m. on Saturdays, typically every other Saturday, although it's been inconsistent. Thank you for your patience with us. We really appreciate it. And it's been a journey. It's been a lot. We're really moving up in the episode count here, Nathan and I. It's funny, too, as I just sit back and reflect before I kind of start going into the content, how I've changed. I mean, I went from being a hardcore libertarian, pretty much an anarcho-capitalist, to being kind of like a neo-reactionary or just a regular reactionary. I don't really call myself a neo-reactionary because I haven't read Moldbug. Curtis Yarvin, aka Mencius Moldbug. I mean, I really like what I've heard of Curtis Yarvin. But I mean, to be honest, out of the two of us, Nathan is the one that's the consistent one. Nathan is still that conservative mixed with libertarian. He's kind of a conservative dash libertarian. It's hyphenated, right? I should say hyphen, not dash. Dash doesn't really make sense. But yeah, it's been a bit of a switch because I used to be kind of hard right, or just kind of a basic conservative, but mixed with hard right in certain ways. And now I should say in the beginning was there, then moved towards more libertarianism and even flirted with being on the left a little bit, which is funny. When I had Nathan from this show on the Fog and the Whirlwind, my show, then he talked about how he also tiptoed to the left, although he was never really a full-blown lefty. And so leftism is appealing. It's easy. People that are in an environment or an echo chamber follow into it really, really easily. And even people that are not raised in environments like that can see the appeal. And the main way it manifested itself to me was anger and hatred and prejudice, frankly, at the cops. And look, the cops are the strong arm of the state, but at the same time, I'm more nuanced, I think, in my thinking and trying to see everyone as an individual, because there are plenty of people, no matter what the profession, I mean, especially now in the medical community. The other thing I think that I was just kind of blind on was the rich and corporations. And as I've gotten a little bit older, I realize how oppressive they can be, how dangerous they can be. And Glenn Beck realizes that too. He's someone, I've read the book The Great Reset, which talks about the way that he labels it is Joe Biden's rise of 21st century fascism, which I think is a misnomer. I don't think it's correct to label it fascism. I call it more like internationalist, corporatist communism. It's kind of a mixture of corporatism, which is not really communism, and a mixture of that and communism. And globalism, corporatism, international. That's why I began with international, but, definitely, globalist, internationalist, corporatist, and then communism and socialism because of the government control, the structure of the government control. It's all about how we can undermine Christian values. It's all about how we can destroy and not build, or build something evil, frankly. Yeah, it's just really, really dangerous and bad. The thing that's crazy that I think about a lot is just the different information that hits us. When you think about Dan Bongino and Jack Posobiec, they do work a lot of it in the intelligence world. Steven Crowder's main work that he actually does something that I think will build a lasting legacy is to Change My Minds. I mean, his regular everyday show, not really the best thing I've ever seen, but his Change My Minds are really good. He's a really good debater, probably among the best. And then you've got Matt Walsh shoring up the the conservative Christian values, and mainly talking about the evils of the LGBT, and including putting himself and his family at risk. I mean, as there's been death threats, as his Twitter has been hacked and things like that. So there's different angles in whatever this movement is. This movement that is anti-left, that is pro-Christian values. And not everyone I named there is what I would say is that exactly. I mean, I'm a Rick Wiles and Matt Walsh guy. Y'all know that follow me on my podcast that I like NJF, and I like other people as well. People that are popular to beat up on Mark Collette's. And so, yeah, I've moved more toward the hard right / a conservative leaning hard right guy, right winger, I would definitely say. And Nathan's the consistent one. He stayed as that kind of mixture of conservative and libertarian, which I admire and respect, because Glenn Beck is that, Ben Shapiro is that, although I think Nathan's a little bit more common sense when it comes to I would say, first and foremost, foreign policy like war. And also he's better on immigration, much better on immigration. Ben Shapiro is not quite for amnesty, but he's not really opposed to it either. He doesn't talk about it enough. He goes into some things that are good, but Shapiro is mainly good when you hear about a lawsuit or a case or something like that. But anyway, I can go on and on about different people's shows, but let's talk about this show. So thank you for watching. First of all, please go to zoo_nation_. Follow us on Instagram. That's the Instagram. At ZooNation1776. Almost everywhere else you can find us just regular Zoo Nation on Facebook. And like I said, you can find us Zoo Nation on Odyssey, Zoo Nation on Rumble as well. The logo's all the same, so it's pretty easy to find us. Trying to get more creative with thumbnails so that it's eye-catching, so that it's appealing to the eye, and excited to talk to you. There's been, as I've said, a lot going on the 2024 front. First of all, to me, to get into it, the big thing that's been going on is this stuff with freaking Trump and Desantis saying, yeah, if I do run, then I'm going to hit him on abortion. And it's like, okay, well, isn't this the guy, meaning Trump, isn't Trump the guy that pretty much got rid of Roe v. Wade? So there's that. And then the other big news, and this is from Forbes, DeSantis launching presidential run Wednesday, an event with Elon Musk. So this happened real fast. I mean, this literally happened as I was preparing for the show this evening. And as I said, Nathan can't be here, so this is going to be like probably a 30-minute, maybe a 20 to 30-minute long show. Trying to keep it a little shorter for you, a little more digestible. But since I'm just now getting to my first story, it'll probably go more to the 30 than the 20-minute mark. DeSantis launching presidential run Wednesday, an event with Elon Musk on Forbes. This was written today, May the 23rd, although this will be coming out this Saturday. So yeah, the question is anyone surprised? Like, if this actually comes to fruition, right? I mean, if this doesn't happen, I'm going to look like an idiot. But the thing is, it's like, who's surprised that there's an update of any kind about Ron DeSantis? I mean, he's traveling around the country doing a book tour, and it's like just inevitable that he's going to do something. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that we need a open primary. Like, some people say, oh, close the primary. We should just have Trump in there. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. I mean, I'm not for democracy. There's things to be said for monarchy, for oligarchy, definitely for a republic. These are all viable alternatives to democracy. And again, people have criticisms of monarchy, but I'm talking about a monarchy that has limits, not absolute power. Although there's people that argue for absolute power, saying, look, democracy's been such a disaster that going with absolute power, absolute monarchy, I should say, is justified. I'm not there, but for example, I mean, if you have a monarchy kind of like freaking the Queen of England or the King of England, where they're kind of a figurehead that has power, they have power, but it's in check by other branches of the government, which is kind of like what the presidency is. I mean, you've got a executive branch. I mean, there's a difference. The thing is, the founding fathers didn't want us to have a monarchy because they felt like there's a danger there, and I get that. But anyway, I mean, it's like back to 2024. The big thing was, I'm going to attack Trump on abortion, and the reason for that is Trump has stated that he goes on and on and on about the third trimester. We got to stop abortion in the third trimester. You have to stop abortion. They're ripping them out of the mother's wombs. Fully developed babies. He talks about that and applaud that completely. Great. But he's oddly silent on the first trimester because he's okay with it. And he used to be a Democrat. Now here's the thing. Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk made a video, and you can find it. Just look up Kyle Kulinski, or just look up Secular Talk, really, Trump abortion, and you'll find it. Eventually it's something like Trump has changed on abortion, or Trump goes extreme on abortion, or Trump's idiotic take on abortion, something like that. You might have to watch a couple of them, and it's worth it because Secular Talk's good. But I don't agree with Kyle on much, but I still like listening to him talk. And basically, it sounds like Trump's going rightward on abortion, which I welcome completely. Sorry for the lighting issue. Basically, he has said in the past, look, if I'm president and if someone tries to pass an abortion ban, I'm not for that. A federal abortion ban is not going to go. Now he's saying, well, we're going to get a lot done, which makes me think, okay, you're being vague, and when you're vague, sometimes you're about to strike or do something. And I was telling somebody, I think that all the attacking of Trump is pushing him rightward. I hope, one can hope. I mean, I think he was pretty moderate when it came to the transgender issue, and seeing the left go so crazy is having him now saying, I'm promising an end to transgender youth and children's surgeries. Now, not on adults, but he's saying on children and youth, you're not going to do this. We're going to have it with parental consent, and it's not going to happen where we can change children's gender. We're not transing the kids. Great move. Good. So yeah, I mean, this is back to Forbes. After months of speculation, Florida Governor Ron Desantis, Republican, will announce his 2024 presidential run in an online Twitter Spaces forum Wednesday afternoon. That will be tomorrow. So by Saturday when this comes out, we'll see what he has said, and Nathan and I will react to it. DeSantis' team has confirmed this Tuesday, launching a bid to take on former President Donald Trump. And there's not a whole lot else in the Forbes headline, but I just wanted to tell you that before reading The Guardian, because I don't want to read just one source. So a lot of people are going to be excited about this. So back to The Guardian. Ron DeSantis to launch presidential campaign on Twitter with Elon Musk. The right-wing governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, will launch his campaign for the Republican presidential nomination on Wednesday evening in a live appearance with Elon Musk, the billionaire owner of Twitter. NBC News first reported the plan, saying the Twitter Spaces talk at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, this is tomorrow, will be moderated by David Sachs, a tech entrepreneur, Musk confidant, and DeSantis supporter. Multiple outlets later confirmed the scheme, and Musk himself retweeted one report. The billionaire also trailed the interview in remarks to a conference hosted by the Wall Street Journal, adding that though he would not at this time endorse any particular candidate, he was interested in Twitter being somewhat of a public town square where more and more organizations make announcements. So yeah, a lot of people are saying that it's not your time, and there's an ad that Trump launched a while ago, probably roughly a month ago at this point. And I wanted to react to it with Nathan, and he got sick, I got sick, and it just hasn't worked out. So whenever he comes back with me on Zoo Nation here, we're going to talk about a lot. We're going to catch up on some things, I should say. It'll probably be kind of a long show, but then we're also going to get current on, okay, what's happening, God willing, a week or 2 weeks from now. And so, yeah, it's just, there's a lot going on with 2024. Chris Christie, about a month ago also, maybe more like, 3 weeks ago, man, Chris Christie is floating the idea, number one, And number two, he tweeted and basically said Trump said in a town hall that he would solve the Russia and Ukraine issue, and I believe that he would by basically giving away Ukraine because he's Putin's puppet, etc. Which is just a snake thing to do. And to be honest, I'm not surprised because Chris Christie is not some upstanding person. I mean, ever since he argued with Senator Paul from Kentucky, not Ron, but Rand, it just was like, okay, you don't believe in the Constitution, and you're just a stupid neocon centrist that is all about reaching across the aisle, which is why the whole Obama hug thing happened. It was just he was just kind of embarrassing in the debates. Frankly, like it was just kind of like okay, Trump dominated those debates anyway, so there wasn't really a place for Christie. And since then, he's just fallen from grace, fallen from favor. He goes on, was it Colbert's show? I forget. It was one of the late night shows to or maybe it was Kimmel, to be embraced by them as here's a Republican that we like, which unfortunately George W. Bush does the same bullcrap, which we don't like. So, yeah, that was one piece of news. And there's just a lot going on. Like now, Tim Scott has announced, yes, I'm running. I'm no longer just talking about there's a possibility. I'm actually going to run. And I've gone into on my podcast why that's a non-starter for me. He has gone along with and said that the hate crime bills that are passing is not all bad because he's voted for one. I mean, he did it with his actions, right? He voted for the 2020 hate crime bill, and in which he basically said, look, there's a lot of Asian people that are under attack by black people, therefore we're going to make it a hate crime to do that. And it's like, look, if there's an issue going on in this country and you want to sign a bill helping to empower the police, number one, I'm kind of against that. I think it's a state issue. I think what you should do is do something to roll back power and allow the individual states to do things. Now, it's one thing if somewhere is out of control, like in 2020. I agree with Thomas 777 that there should have been troops on the ground. Trump should have sent in the National Guard or the Marines and said, look, you're not going to just rip through this country. You're not going to set through things on fire. Bush did this. He wasn't going to let the Crips and the Bloods run L.A. And when state governments in certain states said to Eisenhower, we refuse to desegregate, Eisenhower said, tough crap, I'm sending in troops. And he did. And he said, bull crap, you're going to do what I say. And look, there's an issue with that. I mean, I'm very critical of Lincoln, so it's a delicate balance, right? But to say, number one, we're signing a bill to tell the police what to do. And number two, it's going to be called the hate crime bill because we're going to look at this in an explicitly racial category, specifically against Asians and done by black people. It's like, look, cracking down on crime, no matter the color, got no problem with cracking down, being tough on crime. I think we should be way tougher on crime than we currently are, right? But the thing is, it's like, there's a way to go about this, and he did it the exact wrong way, and no Republican in the conservative/Christian Values Party, I refer to it as the Christian Values Party because that's what it should be doing that. And so, he's announced a run. You can see it on all the major news outlets. I'm trying to pull up an actual headline now to read. But yeah, it's not good. It's something that makes you say, huh. And one thing I want to start doing on my podcast and this one is looking at who endorses who. So who does Ben Shapiro go with? Who does Matt Walsh go with? Michael Knowles, Candace Owens, Dave Rubin, Elon Musk, Karl Rove, Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, Lindsey Graham, William Timmons. Who are these people endorsing, and who are they oddly silent about endorsing? And I don't think any of the people that I mentioned that are on the right have said, Trump, yay, we're going with you. Not Trump, Y-E, yay. Trump, yay, Y-A-Y. Yay, we're going with you. I got to be careful because now there's a guy that goes by yay. But, I mean, no one ever says yay when they see Kanye West. Sorry, that was a joke. I'm sure a lot of people do. So there's a lot of stuff going on the 2024 front. It's going to be interesting to see Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, who is not critical of Trump, and Trump is not critical of him. But them with Tim Scott and Trump, and now it sounds like Ron DeSantis, which we kind of knew the entire time was probably going to be Ron DeSantis. Ted Cruz, I'm kind of surprised has not announced to run yet. That could be coming any day, though. It could come out of left field like, hey, I'm running. I don't know. He's been oddly silent about who he's going to endorse. He's either probably going to wait because he doesn't want to back the wrong horse, or he may be announcing soon. I wouldn't really be surprised either way. I think that he has a place in the Trump administration, especially as like a prosecutor of some kind, because the man definitely is a lawyer and knows the law and knows how to go about it. And I think Rand Paul would be really good prosecuting Fauci and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it regarding 2024. I, for the life of me, cannot get a story going loaded about Tim Scott. I will shortly. But want to hear your thoughts. Comment. Tell us what you think about the 2024 race. Are you excited to hear about DeSantis' possibility of running or run? Are you like, yay, if he runs, he gets my vote right away. I will vote for him in the primary as long as he runs. Or are you like, well, I'm going to wait and see the debates, then, vote. I think most of you are in that camp. I don't think many people are vote DeSantis no matter who, but I do think a lot of people are extremely optimistic where they're like, yes, I will vote for DeSantis in the primary. If that's your thought, that's your thought. I've been posting some stuff in Telegram, so let me know in Telegram for the Zoo Nation, but also my podcast too, what you think about the 2024 race. And so the other big thing going on is the big spending bill that hasn't gone anywhere yet, and we're worried that Kevin McCarthy is going to cave. We're worried that he's going to say, bipartisanship and reaching across the aisle and being reasonable and government shutdown bad. And so therefore he will cave and say, you know what, Biden, you promise you only do this one more time, and you promise that you'll do better next time, and so therefore here's your spending bill. That's what we think is going to happen. Will it is the question. Not sure. So there's really a lot going on. Tim Scott mentions that America is not a racist country. Here we go. Senator Tim Scott has launched a 2024 campaign saying, I cannot stand by. Tim Scott, Republican of South Carolina, officially announced. So he will take on President Donald Trump and potentially Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And again, I don't think anyone is really that surprised by this. Because once Tim Scott announced that he was looking at an exploratory committee, it's like, yeah, of course you're actually going to run. So he says, I am living proof that America is the land of opportunity, not a land of oppression, Scott said Monday in North Charleston, South Carolina. Campaign declaration at Charleston Southern University, his alma mater. This isn't just my story, it's all of our stories. All of our story? Not sure. That might have been a Newsmax typo. But yeah, so there was that going on. And to look at the Russia angle before we close out this episode. Medvedev, or however it's pronounced, is ratcheting up threats of a nuclear war. And unfortunately, because this war is turning into, a lot of ways, Russia's Vietnam, the question to ask is, I was talking to a family member recently about the difference between our Vietnam and Russia's Ukraine. Because Russia doesn't want a Vietnam. They don't want, because, they've been in Afghanistan. They had to withdraw from Afghanistan, right? Because in a lot of ways, because of America funding the rebels, including bin Laden, by the way. Don't forget that. And so the thing is, you got this stuff going on in Ukraine, and Putin, if he leaves power, well, it'll only be in name only, then he'll come back in. Medvedev and him might swap places or something. So the question kind of is, so he is currently president. If he withdraws troops under his command, that looks bad. He didn't run on we're going to be peaceful and then invade Ukraine. That would have been a backlash. It would be an unpopular war. He's got a very, very high approval rating. And so unfortunately, if he backs down, the only way he can do that is say to the Russian people convincingly, this is good for Russia because we've lost so many lives. Then the question's going to be from Russia, though, and this is the issue. Well, why did you get us into this war if there was no plan to win it? You wasted. The question is going to be my son, my uncle, my dad, my father, or, dad and father, all the same thing, stepdad, whatever, male member of my family, cousin, older brother, has fought in this war, died for Ukraine, and you're just saying, well, we can't take it. Because the idea is we're invading Ukraine. We're not just here to grab some territory. We're invading Ukraine. And to back out will look bad. Ukraine has a similar problem where they can't say, well, we just have to let them have the Donbass region. Ukraine's wanting to get Russia out. And the problem with someone is probably the U.S., and it'd be very hard for Biden to do this because of the current state, coming in and brokering a peace treaty of some kind where no one's really that satisfied, which on the one hand is tenable, but the problem with that is then Russia gets mad and says, we're not happy with this, we shouldn't have agreed to this, we're breaking it. But the problem is if you don't, it's just perpetual fighting. And how many thousands or millions eventually of Russians have to die in Ukraine before Ukraine just caves and it just falls under Russian rule? So the thing is, Nixon ran on, we're going to end the war, and he got elected, and then he tried to win the war before withdrawing. So that happened. LBJ got in and began the war. It was not fought well at all. So it's a bit different, Vietnam versus Russia, which is, it was fought to win in Ukraine, Russia in Ukraine. It's just not going the right way because it's really been a lot of like NATO uniting around Ukraine pretty much. Medvedev, Western arms to Ukraine, a heightened risk of nuclear apocalypse. Another headline that you should find is Japan is going to send 100 armored vehicles to Ukraine. A member of Russian President Vladimir Putin's powerful Security Council warned that the increase of the weapons of the West supplied to Ukraine, the higher the risk, the more destructive the weapons that the West supplied to Ukraine, the higher the risk of nuclear apocalypse. The United States has committed $37 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since Putin sent troops into Ukraine in February last year. President Biden told fellow G7 leaders on Friday that he backed a joint effort with allies to train Ukrainian pilots on F-16 fighter jets. So yeah, I mean, this from the president that said we're not going to send deadly weaponry, especially not jets and especially not tanks. He sends tanks. Now he's saying, well, we're going to train your pilots to fly F-16s. Well, who makes F-16s? The United States. So that's one story as we wrap up. But yeah, it's a disaster and it's awful. And frankly, it looks like the reason I keep covering this almost every episode of Zoo Nation is because it looks like we're watching World War III. Who's behind the attack on a Russian region on the border with Ukraine? This is a recent one from Newsmax as well today. Estonia. Russia alleges that dozens of Ukrainian militants crossed into one of its border towns in its Belgorod region, striking targets and forcing an evacuation. Before, over 70 of the attackers were killed or pushed back by what the authorities termed a counterterrorism operation. The authorities meaning Russian authorities. Ukraine denied any involvement in the skirmishes Monday and Tuesday, instead blaming two Russian groups that claim to be volunteers fighting alongside Kiev's forces in an uprising against the government of President Vladimir Putin. While neither version could be independently verified, whatever happened appears to have sent Moscow scrambling to respond to one of the most serious border incursions since Putin launched the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. So basically, Ukraine says, no, this is a civil war of Russians trying to overthrow Putin, and Putin is saying, these are Ukrainian militants that are crossing the border. So, again, I cover this because we need to be updated and informed. But please like this video. Please comment. We want to hear your thoughts on everything covered this evening. Trump's stance on abortion, 2024, and then what's going on in Ukraine. Thank you, everyone, very much for following Zoo Nation. Follow us on our social medias as well. And look forward to catching you on the next episode when Nathan can join us. Take care, everybody.